Call this Con Cedar Lake Planning Commission public meeting to order, March 17th, 2021. Please stand for the pledge. Mr. Carnahan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I wanted just to share that anybody who's not here. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I just wanted to share that anybody who's not here, they made it very clear it has nothing to do with St. Patrick's Day. Mr. Foreman, are you there?
I am present, and it has nothing to do with St. Patrick's Day. I didn't even wear green today.
Okay, green's not your color. Roll call, please.
Chuck Becker.
Sure.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
Heather Dessauer.
She's not here.
John Foreman.
Present?
Richard Sharp.
Here.
John Capera.
Present.
Jerry Wilkening.
Here.
Donald Oliphant.
Here.
David Austin.
Present.
Jill Murr. Present. Terry Knowles. Here.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the approval of the minutes, public meeting December 2nd, 2020, work session December 16th, 2020, public meeting January 6th, 2021, special public meeting and work session January 20th, 2021, the public meeting on February 3rd, 2021, the work session Friday the 16th, February 16th, 2021. Would anybody like to make a motion on these or any questions regarding them?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Approval?
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Got a motion by Mr. Sharp, second by Mr. Capora. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Heather Dessauer. Oops, sorry. Absent. Chuck Becker.
Yes.
John Capera.
Present. Yes.
Jerry Wilkening.
Yes.
Did you get John Foreman too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got it, yeah.
Yes, I did.
So as soon as
You went kind of different than what the agenda shows.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but. Okay. All right. New business. Item number 1, Hanover Community High School site plan additions to the high school. Petitioner is requesting a site plan regarding the additions to the high school. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Don Torringa with Torringa Engineering, 907 Ridge Road, Munster, Indiana. Here tonight representing Hanover School Corporation for the site plan. I have copies of it. Hopefully everyone still has it.
These are these 1117s?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Does anybody need to see these? No? Okay,
I'm good.
I have
All right.
mine anyway.
go ahead, Don.
Well, we're here this evening for the site plan approval on this. The proposal is to add an addition to the building and then also demo the entrance and add a new area to that, expand the concrete in front of the building to make a patio area, change the parking so that all the parking actually faces towards the building, and do some modifications to some sidewalks. In addition to that, there will be a design build on adding the turf to the football field, which is currently grass. With that, I don't have much else to say.
All right, let me get through the normal. Jill, do you have anything on this? Everything's where it is?
I don't have any additional.
Okay, all right. Mr. Oliphant,
So we just got the submittal on Friday afternoon,
what, the whole submittal?
whole submittal. That's when it got forwarded to us. So we haven't even picked it up yet.
Mr. Austin, is there anything that you have that's? Oh, okay. All right, I do have a question before we go down that road. This original application says to update the football field to turf. We have quite a few things all lumped together on this meeting agenda for this. So what exactly are we missing, Don? What do you have that you
I
haven't
don't
gone
think
through?
anything
you know?
missing is we just didn't have time to pick it up. I think it was forwarded to the town sooner than that, but we didn't get it in our hands until Friday afternoon.
So we're talking about the amended PUD, we're talking about all the legal documents, is that what I'm assuming?
This isn't an amendment for a PUD. This is only a site plan approval.
Just a site plan.
I'm sure everything is in the packet. We just haven't had time to look at it.
All right. Mr. Foreman, do you have anything on this matter?
I do not know.
Mr. Becker, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to defer it. Because
Okay.
obviously legal and engineering didn't get a chance to look at it. It's twice in a row.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second a deferral if we don't have the necessary or hasn't been reviewed.
All right. I guess,
Yeah.
does anybody have any questions on the motion? Mr. Sharp? Any
Yeah,
questions?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure, John.
Mr. Turinga, is a deferral to the third Wednesday of April going to create havoc in any way, shape, or form?
I believe it is, yes.
And Don, do you have, do you think that in a couple of weeks you might have had the proper amount of time to review this? And if so, Mr. Chairman, could we potentially put this on as a special public meeting, but do it at the end of the work session as opposed to the beginning, to not make the people that were there for work session have to wait through long discussions if they do arise?
I understand your question, John, but I do have a motion and a second. And
Correct. So I guess my question, Mr. Chairman, is, Don, if you think you might have the right time, Chuck, would you be willing to do the idea that I pitched in order to help keep this ball rolling for the school to build a break ground a few weeks earlier than later?
Don, as we discussed before, they're supposed to have a proper time limit. And we discussed this last time. And engineering needs proper 10 days advance, 10 days business notice.
Chuck, I think it was more of just a mistake. I think when staff got it, they thought I was copying on it. I wasn't.
Okay,
So Don did get it in sooner. I don't know exactly when, but
we also had, let's regarding Mr. Foreman's request, we're going to do a vote. And then if you'd like to,
keep in mind, April's a backloaded month too.
Yeah, and I guess the reason too, Chuck, for my request is March is a month with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Wednesdays, okay? So if we waited, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 5 more weeks from today versus if we could do it on the 7th of April. That's kind of the motive behind it,
And it gives everybody 3 weeks still to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to at least get through one look at it and see where we're at. I mean,
Hopefully
without looking at any
Then-
detail engineering, I don't know.
So if you would be
we will
willing
be
to,
deferring this till when?
Wednesday after the work session.
It would be the 21st is the next public meeting.
No, but if we make the special meeting,
It would be the 7th.
7th,
the
yeah.
7th of April,
yes, 7th.
3 weeks.
yes.
Okay, so would you like to retract your motion?
No, just amend the motion.
Okay,
And add
So,
special.
Of April, yeah.
after of April,
And
so
I'm
after the
perfect.
work session.
okay.
for a special public meeting.
Do we have a second regarding Chuck's amended motion?
Yeah, I'll second.
second by Mr. Kapora. Before I do roll call, I do have a question, and that is the amended PUD and everything has to be looked through, correct?
No PUD, it's a site plan.
I thought-
Just a site. Is it a site?
Okay, all right. Okay, just a site plan. Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Chuck Bicker,
Yes.
John Capira,
Yes,
Jerry Wilkening.
Yes, motion carries. Thanks, Mr. Foreman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think we're good till the 7th of
And you've got
April.
everything you need done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there. I just haven't had it long enough. That's not your fault.
And you don't need anything, Dave? Okay. Okay.
We had the PUD hanging out there because there was some confusion with that also.
No, they're not, I don't, their application not a zone change or.
Well,
No, but
that-
there was an
for the-
amended
that was-
PUD that was
Yeah.
lost in translation too somewhere.
I think that was that for the middle school? Was that for all
That was
that?
middle school. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
that's the
That
high
was middle
school.
school. That was a conversation you had with Mr. Tringa.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next item. Beacon Point East, rezone to PUD, PUD amendment, and preliminary plat amendment. Owner petitioner Beacon Point of Cedar Lake LLC, 8900 Wicker Avenue, St. John, Indiana. Vicinity is 9000 West 141st Avenue, Cedar Lake. Hello petitioner. Take your name, good. Name and address.
Petitioner and owner, Beacon Point.
Is this a public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are the legals in order and everything?
We'll get to that.
Okay, so that was number one.
I do need to be reminded of things. Though. Proceed, Mr. Holmes.
Well, we were here a month ago. This is new and we're off here for work study. This is a sliver of land that was originally part of the PUD, original PUD, 60-foot right of way on the east side. Since that time, since that approval, the petitioner has acquired land on either side of that 60-foot right of way and is seeking to include that in the PUD with the PUD amendment. And the plan in front of you shows that we're adding 13 title lots. The documents will basically just include the new legal description. Lot counts, documents. I believe all the engineering comments have been addressed. And so we're ready to hear what you have to say and the public.
And the 60-foot roadway is being used.
The 60-foot road is being used, it's not in the exact alignment of being straight. Now that we have some flexibility, but it goes from point A to point B.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding what Mr. Holmes is here for? No.
no,
The legals are in order? Everything's good? Okay. Don, are you,
We recommend approval. We had two contingencies on our letter. One is for just the PUD documents to be amended to reflect the addition to the PUD, which is really just appendices of the new preliminary plat. The legal description has to be revised to the new one. I don't know if David's got that information yet or not, but okay. We don't either. So, yeah. The other contingency we had in there was we recommended that the proposed sidewalk be carried through the wine group parcel. Currently, they're showing it kind of waggling up to the existing sidewalk up here. It's a non-compliant ADA sidewalk, so we don't recommend tying in, basically having a 130-foot gap of non-compliant sidewalk. They acquired right away from Mr. Winecoop by deed. So, and they're installing utilities to that corridor, but they're not showing sidewalk. So it's really up to you guys. They technically don't own it, but you're gonna have a 130-foot gap of non-compliant sidewalk between two brand new pieces of sidewalk.
So Wine Coops is not ADA
It
compliant.
is not, it was only 4 foot wide.
Just to be clear, we did not acquire the right of way from the White Group. The White Group dedicated that.
Dedicated.
On the private stuff.
It is recorded and
It is a
dedicated though.
recorded document, but it was not something that petitioner acquired in order to make this project happen.
Yeah, it's already shown. Yes. Not on the flat. No.
So regarding Mr. Oliphant's comments,
Yeah.
you, I mean,
It would
yay,
be our
yay, yay,
position that it would be our position that that sidewalk is on adjacent property owner. It's not part of the decision. And it's not customary to require improvement off-site unless there's water main extension. We are doing water main extension and roadway improvements through there. There is existing sidewalk that is there that was placed, I would assume, in compliance with the town ordinance at the time when that was placed. Typically, people are not putting sidewalks nearly in front of their property.
Mhm.
So we believe that sure there's public sidewalk there, but there should be a lot of sidewalks there should be.
so then, so what is Mr. Oliphant referring to? 130, he's referring to 130 feet of non-compliant sidewalk. That's what he's,
He's referring to the piece of sidewalk that is in front of the
Wine Coop, the Wine Coop sidewalk.
Hey, Don and Mr. Chairman, it was a little hard to hear Jack, but what is the distance from the road to the existing sidewalk? It sure seems to me that it's awful far to the north.
It is on private property
Yeah,
as well.
I like Don's suggestion, quite honestly. I don't know how it needs to get done. I couldn't quite hear Jack, but it makes sense. It's logical that it's the same distance off the road.
regarding the PUD documents that Don also referred to, is that, that's,
something I have control over.
Okay.
The attorney not providing those documents. I can tell you though that the changes to those documents that I would be expecting would be there's an exhibit at the end that shows a picture of the plat. And then there's reference to lot numbers within the document, and those would be the only changes to that document.
In the legal description, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no covenant, there's no proposed changes.
all right. Mr. Foreman, anything else?
I do not have anything else. No. Again, I think some of those parcels were already zoned the way that they are. So I have no heartburn up with it.
Okay. Mr. Carnahan, any thoughts?
No, other than Don with this 2-page letter is kind of recommending that they've got through everything, and the 2 items below it be probably included if somebody makes a motion.
All right, Don, anything else other than those 2 things? Okay.
No, sir.
Mr. Sharp,
No,
Mr. Kapora.
So what you're saying, Jack, is that you don't feel be compliant or is obligated to put the sidewalk in front of the wine coops? Is that what you're saying?
I would say that it's traditional when let's take the Piper compound, which I did directly across the street.
All right.
He was obligated to put sidewalk in on his frontage, but it's not on his neighbor's property, just on his property.
Correct.
no discussion on adjacent properties to that petition to provide connectivity. And in this case, just because the petitioner owns on both sides of the parcel, I may feel it's being subject to a different criteria, which we disagree with. And that is not part of our property, it's not part of the petition, and therefore it shouldn't be our requirement to place that sign.
Understood. Now, did they donate some property to you?
We
Is that what you're saying?
purchased property, we,
You purchased
alongside-
property on both sides.
alongside, they dedicated the right of way in front. We did not acquire that.
In front of their house.
But their sidewalk, the existing sidewalk is on private property. Isn't that what you said, Don?
Yes, I'm not aware of any easements on their parcel.
So people would be trespassing if they used the existing sidewalk.
So if you allowed them to not place sidewalk here, the recommendation would be to stub it at their boundaries and not tie it in.
We would be willing to do that. That would be consistent with what is typically expected of a petitioner, is that at the property line, the sidewalk is stopped. We feel that we kind of want above and beyond. Typically, those rules would apply to water main extension, curbs, and we are providing those public infrastructures along that right of way. We obviously need to be a dedicated right of way for us to do that, or we would be on private property. And we did that in the interest of the town and public safety and those kinds of things, but in this particular case, we just feel that,
Would that, when you stop at the property line, would that match up? It won't match up to the other sidewalk.
it'll match up on either side of their parcel. Because we will have our sidewalk in line, but there will be a gap that will go to the north.
To where their sidewalk is.
To where their sidewalk is, and we will, I believe there is connectivity now, as far as on the
East side.
on the east side, that was directed by Public Works for us to do. But we can remove that, that's the town's desire. And then on the other side, we'll provide the sidewalk connection. In accordance with the town ordinance.
Now, how much of a gap we're talking about between two sidewalks?
130 feet, 133 feet, to be exact.
So it's just gonna be grass in between.
Would be what's there
Or
now.
whatever their property has,
Right.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
What is there
not
now?
our property, if they
Yeah.
decide to pull a building permit, well, they'll have to do a lot subdivision, and at that time, they'll be required to do some type of public improvement along there. That would be
Yeah, because
expected,
you can't do it because it's not proper.
but we can't do it because it's not our property. And the removal
Oh.
of the existing sidewalks would also be,
They could do it. The right-of-way dedication allows them to do it. They cannot connect into the current sidewalk because
on
it's private property and it's beyond the right-of-way dedication.
So
Just
they
some
could do
clarity.
it.
They could do it.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. So the right-of-way dedication, Don, so the right-of-way dedication means that the Wine Coop's dedicated that land to the town?
Yes,
Okay.
So if
so, I mean.
you don't put the sidewalk in, would the wine coops be obligated to put in a sidewalk?
No, he did.
No,
I don't know what the town is required.
Well, Don seconded and said no.
It would surprise me that the town would accept public right away and not require any improvement.
Would that improvement, if they accept it, would that improvement fall in the wine
Right,
coops?
but they've already accepted that right away.
but I don't think right-of-way dedication necessarily triggers public improvements. Those aren't,
And it doesn't obligate wine coops to do anything. Right?
so.
I mean, if the wine cubes sell their property and they say somebody demolishes the house and wants to build a house, well, they would have to do one lot subdivision because it meets and bounds parcel. Then it would trigger, and only then.
You can't make a
So-
little deal coming up to that sidewalk somehow?
We're willing to do that.
Well,
You would do that?
We would do that.
But,
yeah.
but they
But then
can't,
the 130 wouldn't be ADA compliant.
I think the ADA compliance is really not the issue at hand.
Okay.
I think it's the location of the sidewalk.
both.
That is a relatively flat sidewalk. I don't
Couldn't we,
believe that is-
can we connect it that way? Just have something come up? Or does that look too stupid or what?
Well, there is no sidewalk on the west side of the driveway.
I think, Mr. Sharp, the issue is that that sidewalk that exists
It is.
is on private property.
Yeah, yeah.
So anybody who's on that sidewalk would be trespassing.
Trespassing, so we don't want.
So if we
Yeah.
don't get the sidewalk now,
Yeah, yeah.
we never get the sidewalk. Or,
I would recommend not tying into it.
No, I understand. It's private property, yeah.
I think yeah.
okay. All right,
Is there any mechanism the town has to capture any expenses that were put across in front of adjacent property owners? When and if they would need to do it, so if there was a one lot subdivision that has to come in, the petitioner customarily would be required to put road improvements, water main improvements, and sidewalk improvements along that frontage, which are currently already installed by another. Is there any mechanism to those costs?
I don't know the answer to your question, but I do know that that's one of those things we can call in the future, which is the kind of language you and I discussed, means infinity. So, all right, well, what a position to be in.
Yeah.
I think putting the sidewalk on the dedicated easement would certainly help the people who are going to be walking in that neighborhood. Yes. Okay. Anybody
What's
have
the
it?
distance between that? Where we,
135.
no, I know that distance, but if the one sidewalk went all the way, connect.
Yeah, 135.
But I mean, how far is that to their sidewalk? Would that be 10 feet?
And
Off the right of way?
So,
So we'd have two sidewalks.
yeah, I would say.
11
Put a nice little design in there
10,
sometime.
11 feet. 10, 11 feet.
I would hope that.
Could put a lap pool in there.
That they would not require us to remove an existing non-compliant sidewalk that is unfeasible.
No.
No, I wouldn't do that.
That's a,
No.
that's a,
No,
that's a-
I wouldn't. do
no,
that.
That's no
That's-
brainer.
that's a can of worms that nobody wants.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
So basically, you would have one sidewalk up towards their property.
Yeah.
And then if we require the other sidewalk being closer to the road, going all the way across.
Matching the existing.
Matching the
Put
existing.
sidewalk in, and put the public
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Well, Mr. Chairman, really, the sidewalk that's on private property, we might as well just ignore that because if they decide tomorrow to chop it up and remove it,
That's exactly what I think we're all saying, John.
okay, yeah, I couldn't hear Mr. Austin, but I personally would like to ask, that the petitioner does indeed put the sidewalk on the right of way that was dedicated by the existing property owner. It just makes the development look complete, connecting the east and the west.
Yeah,
might-
Yes, sir.
In addition to John's comments, it might be fair to inform property owners, Mr. and Mrs. Weinkoop, that in the event they ever showed up here or sold it to a developer or somebody who's going to end divide their property into something else, that the existing sidewalk on private property will likely not be permitted to stay there. There'll already be a sidewalk.
For that property, yeah.
in the
But you don't need a permit in town to pour concrete though, David. You can pour a concrete driveway, you don't need a permit, you know what I mean?
About that, John.
No, I understand, and perhaps the existing sidewalk will be beneficial to some little kids someday. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Okay, so. Anybody have anything else? So
People
you're,
probably use that sidewalk though right now, don't they, Jeremy?
I don't, well, there's nothing,
And there's no way to get to it, but if they're,
There's no
if they're
conductivity there.
walking, well,
I mean, there's no conductivity
yeah,
there.
I understand.
It's private property, it's
It
private
is
property.
private property, but people walking wouldn't know if it's private property.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't.
Yeah, that sidewalk is going to serve the same purpose as the sidewalk that the folks on the south side of the street will someday have to build. It's the sidewalk to nowhere.
Yes. Yes.
Let's
Yes,
hear
it
what
is.
Let's hear what the line group said.
All right. Have a seat real quick. Any remonstrators? Would like to speak? Come to the podium, state your name and address.
Kelly Weinkoop, 9010 West of 141st Avenue, Cedar Lake Drive.
No, that's it. Name and address. That's all.
9010 West, that's it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. We're
All
good.
right. Since they poured the sidewalk on the west, that sidewalk is very busy every day that it's been nice. To be honest, the sidewalk on the west is partially on my property. It's a foot in. So they poured onto my driveway. Part of their new sidewalk is already about a foot into my property. I can excuse that as long as I'm not liable for anybody. But the problem I'm having is the grade on, I have a lot of issues with that west side before they even think about starting the east side. I want approval of grade. Is Johnny Foreman here?
He's
No, no,
online.
He can hear you.
Okay, came out and even checked. I have a 13-month-old granddaughter. If she trips on the side of my garage, she's rolling into that pond. It is not safe. I have to invest money to put a fence for her safety. And we already had this deal in the works when they went ahead and cut the grade and like, oh, well, they agreed in our contract to give me 55 loads of fill. But now that west side's done, we sort of reneged on that. We had so many issues with the dirt over there when they were digging that west side that my furnace that's 5 years old is probably shot. I have text messages saying they would take care of it. Nothing has happened. And so I want a grade approval. I want the sidewalk addressed. And actually on the east side, I'd like a 6-foot fence, at least from the property line to the begin to past my house right now.
Okay, let's start with the grade. The original approval was done before the other purchases.
Well,
That,
it's
I don't know.
contingent for your water loop.
No, I meant the original project was approved before there was any exchange of property to the east, correct? Is the grade to spec?
I believe so. Have we
Mr.
gotten
Mr.
as-built?
Foreman? What did you see when you were out there?
Well, I'm not sure what the grade call out was by looking at plans or anything, but
I don't know.
I guess when I was there, the retention pond was freshly dug and there wasn't much water in that. So I don't know what it looks like in the last few months since the snow has melted.
All right.
But as far as what the grade needs to be, that would have to be a Don Oliphant question. Whether it's
Give
right,
it the
wrong.
5-to-1 side slope, which meets our ordinances.
I think we discussed
call
the
it.
grade of the pond.
Yeah, we did. I don't know what's
Is
connecting
the
with.
pond filled in?
They graded onto my property. I can't even mow my lawn.
Well,
Same,
I don't know where the property lines are
They're
or,
marked.
or
and they graded my whole west side. I mean, they cut pretty deep in it, some parts 10 to 12 feet.
all right. You understand that at some point we can't come to any resolution to these things
Well, I
tonight.
know that. I
So-
already have to, and I'm gonna have to fix that west side. So I want the issues for the east side addressed before any approval giving. I want a grade approval first.
You want the grade checked.
Check, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And double check.
On the east side.
On the east
On
side,
the east side or west, east side?
east
They
side.
already
Okay,
dug the
okay.
west side,
Okay, okay.
where it's gonna, I'm gonna have to put a fence for the safety of kids.
We discussed the pond in here.
Headline.
At length, yeah, more than once. I thought you and
I've
Mr.
been in
I
that
thought you and
pond
Mr. Wine, I thought you and Mr. Winecoop were here for some of those discussions
Yeah.
of the
But I've
pond
been
and the
in
grade.
pond, it's deep.
Uh,
Very deep.
You mentioned you want a 6-foot fence on the east side? And what are you requesting that for?
Should block me off from the development because of, I'm gonna have what, 4, how many cottage homes?
I-
On the side of
Five,
me?
maybe, maybe
I-
five.
I have to
That's
think
fine.
that, and I could be wrong, Mr. Austin, but I have to think that some of these things should have been negotiated when the new property was acquired by the developer.
Some of these items on the ship have sailed. But the result of the construction is the remonstrance you're getting now. So
Yeah.
an inspection of the grade
The
Yeah.
east side wasn't
for
used.
compliance makes sense.
No, it wasn't, you're right, it wasn't discussed then, and triple checking things, I'm all about it.
Mhm.
Asking us for a 6-foot fence
Well,
on the east side after you sold the property I'm having a hard time with that.
well, then I'll,
Well, I mean, if there's a safety issue, we need to know what it is.
well, there's safety issues on the west side.
Where the pond is.
We will look at it.
You will,
I'm saying, as an adult, but I'm just saying, a little kid, they trip, they're,
and Mrs. Winecoop, we did in length talk about that detention pond, that pond, because of the slope.
and the original plan, I didn't notice so much water in the back. There's a lot of standing water in the back.
You mean on the north side of your property?
And the grade is-
Hey, Jerry, the existing pond that was dug
Yeah,
then flows kind of northeastward. And
Yes.
what we saw when I was there was the culvert to the northeast, where the road, I believe, goes over,
yes,
holds water, but the water can't get to the pond.
okay.
Thus, it's a mosquito haven or what have you. So I didn't know at the time if that was because it was a brand new subdivision. There weren't many non-pervious surfaces yet constructed and no homes, I think. So it was like November or something, or December when I was there.
All right, then I guess we need clarification on
We'll take a look at it.
some of these things.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten finalized as built yet. I know they've had problems. They had some problems with soil erosion control out there in the fall. That kind of clogged up some of their ponds. They're fined
Okay.
for it. So we need to look back if something got set, basically filled in with sediment.
Yeah.
Did they have to dig back out?
Well, that's entirely possible.
Yeah. So,
And if they went on the west side of their property and were on her property, I would think that would have to be fixed.
yeah, I mean, if they've crossed legal property boundaries, that's an issue.
Yeah, I don't know what the dimension was between the side of the garage and the property line. There wasn't a lot there, was there? I mean,
No,
there wasn't, I mean, was it,
But in the back, it's pretty far distance that they dug into. In the back, and on the north side.
I'm not sure some of those things we would deal with here, correct? Or would
Well,
we?
Well,
That's
From
code
an
enforcement.
inspection perspective or compliance with approval perspective, maybe so.
Okay.
If they're asking for changes that are or have some impact or are affected by what they've
Okay.
constructed.
So I
you really
guess,
kind of have to be seamless with.
so ultimately we have to have Don
Yeah.
look this over and report back.
Thinking inspection makes sense.
We also need that west side, that sidewalk check too.
Okay.
See where
Yeah,
it's actually, see where it
I
actually
mean,
landed.
with the plat being so fresh that, the property corner should be pretty accessible. So it should be pretty obvious. If something is across the line, it should be pretty obvious.
well, at first thought they wanted to wind it up through the property and bring it over to match my existing sidewalk, and I stopped that. I'm like,
Okay,
absolutely not.
okay.
Yeah, that's a can of worms.
That just
Can of worms.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Don.
Yes,
Mhm.
Don, do we have anything in the ordinance that would require a fence on the east side where the entrance would be kind of like what we would do if we have a commercial business building next to a resident or vice versa?
See, on the east side,
Yes, on the east side where she's asking for a fence.
no, your zoning ordinance really only starts triggering, I guess, screening when it's commercial against residential, not residential against residential.
Okay, thank you.
Unless it's deemed a
A reasonable-
condition.
Yeah, it's a little different with the PUD.
Well, you add PUD to it.
Yeah.
It's
If it was a strict zoning, then no. PUD can be interpreted
still
differently.
entitlement under the statute for imposition of reasonable conditions. If it were just a subdivision, it's amplified here by the PUD also.
So really depends on how you define reasonable.
so you have your points of interest?
To do my work, yes.
And also.
Yes, sir.
With the fence, because it can't be past the building lines. And that,
Be on it.
it has to be past the building, like 30-foot building line deeper.
No,
Can't
fence
be
fence can be on the building.
What's that?
Fence
Fence
can be
can
on.
be on the building.
Well, it's not in front yard.
Well, I'm saying for like the front part of the yard, like the first 30 feet,
I don't need a fence in front, it's just where.
Just in the
house
back
would
part.
be back.
from the house back. That's what I'm
That's
asking.
what I'm asking.
Okay.
I don't think a fence is the obligation of the developer here, because it's residential to residential. I mean, if
I understand.
they need a fence or want a fence, then I think it's their obligation, a responsibility to do that. To get
Well,
the fence.
the west side's already costing me a lot to fix. They don't have to. I have to get filled because I can't even mow my lawn. I have a 360 mower. I'll flip if I try to mow my lawn with it.
Well, I don't know that we have a whole lot else other than what Don looks over.
So
We
where
gotta
are
check,
we at?
Don has to check the grade on the west side. He's gonna check the grade on the east side. He's gonna look over the stormwater issues that you and Mr. Foreman had alluded to. And the existing sidewalk is the existing sidewalk. Also, where the new sidewalk needs to be checked where it ends.
Yeah, we'll
Mhm.
check that if it's jutting out, it should be removed and replaced within the right of way.
Anything else on your list?
No.
Okay.
I just don't want to be liable if somebody, people walk that sidewalk every day.
No,
And I don't have no problem with that. I'd rather them be on a sidewalk than the road. But if somebody falls and busts their nose, I don't want to be liable.
yeah, well, you heard what where we're going with this, it's highly probable that sidewalk will remain your sidewalk.
Wow,
So
for tricycles right now. That's all it's for.
that's a good thing. Okay, any other remonstrators regarding this item, for or against? Anyone? Okay. Mr. Holtz,
Do you have a copy of the grading plan? 'Cause I can approach and bring you a copy. Like, I don't know if you got that in your packet.
I don't,
I don't,
it could be in this computer somewhere. I don't.
I don't think.
I think ultimately verification by Mr. Oliphant that things are to spec
Yeah, and I do
are
appreciate
what we,
comment we have provided as built would have been approved for the detention pond, so we are confident that the detention pond is built according to the plan. That, and that area of the pond is not changed on this plan. Additionally, as I've already pointed out, the detention pond was in accordance with the ordinances.
Thank you.
you have one of these? You want one of these? Come get it. You have this one. For that, we got, Chuck's got two. You get two.
Special.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, I wasn't prepared to bring the outputs to a meeting, but I'm confident we have those because we posted a letter of credit for that, and that would not be an item that would be left outstanding on a letter of credit. It would be typically just finished pavement. But that would be a remaining item on a letter of credit. So I'm confident that the detention pond is built in accordance with the plans. It should be noted that the wine coop parcel, the property line on the west line that is being referred to was moved 12 feet into the Beacon East property as a result of the property transfers. So the excavation work that is likely being referred to was done on the petitioner's property prior to it being dedicated or transferred to the wine coops as part of that negotiation that went on. So we believe that that work, if it's not completed, it will be completed. It's perfectly reasonable to expect it to be completed satisfactorily. But it's all in accordance with the plans that are in front of you. Regarding the west line, the wine coop parcel is significantly higher than this property. She flows pretty hard to the west, or to the east. And so if you look on the grading plan, you'll notice that we have grade shots on the east adjoining property line that we put there so that we know what the existing ground is at that location. And then we can't touch those. And then we grade down. And so we have a rear yard swale that is roughly 4 to 5 feet down from that property line. And it flows to the north and then overland flood routes into our detention pond. The side slopes that are there are 4 to 1, which are in accordance with the review comments. So all of that stuff has already been reviewed by Don. He's very thorough when it comes to grading and ordinance matters. We were actually just working on a minor grading thing yesterday. So took care of that actually between 2 houses and overland flood route. So, you know, I believe that, you know, from a design perspective, this meets all of your ordinances. I can understand the development is different than what is currently there, but the adjacent property owner did sell the property to this developer. So it is not unknown what was going to be developed there and what the conditions were. And I do believe that if the fence was required or requested, that would have been a part of the contract negotiations between the parties instead of something that would be negotiated in front of with you in a public meeting. So those would be my responses to the public comments.
Okay. Looking at the private property sidewalk, it does show the new sidewalk jogging over to it.
It does, and that was directed by the Public Works Department at the time of that approval, so.
Not,
that-
not knowing,
Not knowing that
Yeah.
there was a concern.
Okay.
Like I said, if that is going to be a condition of the approval, then we will remove that. And we will install the sidewalk at the 30-foot, at the back of the typical at the right of way.
So
Does anyone, go
I
ahead.
have one question. The 12-foot that was provided to the wine coops,
Mhm.
was that done after the initial approval?
Yes.
Were the grades in the pond
It was
adjusted
accounted for. We
accordingly?
were suspected that was going to happen. We actually moved it.
'Cause that would have made it steeper potentially.
Hmm?
That could have made it steeper if they were held.
No, we moved the pond over about 20 feet.
Okay.
As one of the design revisions, we moved that over in anticipation that might happen
To the west,
to the west. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's my only,
Because
concern.
originally there was a walking path that came along there, and the wine coops protested that, and so that was removed.
There was.
And in lieu of that, because at that time the sidewalk or the detention pond was already moved over, and the area that walking path would have gone in was then transferred to the wine coops,
is there an
which gives
agreement?
them more space between their parking lot, or excuse me, their garage and their west property line, which is a benefit to them as far as having separation.
If that was done after, I guess, the pond was started construction, was there an agreement between the developer and the wine coops to regrade areas within that 12-foot? Or was that, or isn't
The
that 12-foot
regrading
untouched?
happened prior to the transfer.
Okay, so there was no grading done by the developer in that 12-foot swath.
I can't say that for sure.
Okay.
that's the problem.
It's
I
something
guess,
we have to look at.
But
It's
the
something, a
grading
lot of
work-
that's been done after our approval, so. And with a
No,
private,
let's get the order straight.
okay,
Okay. The plans anticipated that happening. So there was no design changes.
Okay.
To make that happen.
Okay.
Okay. The work was done. The grading work was done. In the midst of that grading work being done, the property was transferred.
Okay.
Therefore, it was not a mystery that grading work was going to be done. And it is the responsibility of the developer to complete that work. If it is undone, then that we would agree it needs to be seeded, needs to be stabilized. But it was not unapproved, and it was not unexpected.
Doesn't seem like from Jack's explanation of the sequence that the developer was out of order making revisions or doing grading before the approval was given.
No, we anticipated
that was
that
almost-
as part of the
that's right.
approval.
That's exactly what you said. You anticipated, so you were already working. There was not an approval. That was not what they had acted upon.
No, we did not start grading until the plan commission had given approval on all the plans.
That isn't what you just said.
No, we would never start grading without plan commission approval. Okay, we can't because we don't get a stormwater permit. So
I don't-
we can't start grading until we have
You
approval.
said you started working in anticipation.
in anticipation of their
The
negotiation.
design anticipated it. So I moved the pond over and provided the transition grade.
Design begged approval. Design begged approval of the plan.
No, because at the time, when we were going through the design process, there was a path that was along there. And so
Oh, it was a
all I did
gravel
was
walking path.
remove the path and I left the grading. All we did was remove the path.
You're saying anticipating the approval
And then-
with the wine coop.
Right, because at that time, the wine coops were at the public meeting and they didn't want that path and so that was something that was negotiated, but all of that transfer actually happened after the mass grading work was done.
I think, let's get one thing out of the way. Does anybody think waiving the new sidewalk? Is anybody for that? I'm not taking a vote, I just want consensus. So Mr. Halls understands.
So waive it.
Waive it. You want to wait? You think we should be waive the new sidewalk?
No, but I don't think they should be responsible for moving the old sidewalk.
No, it's private property. No. What do you think about the new sidewalk?
I think it should go in.
I think it should. Right now, that's what I think.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Carnahan.
Go in.
Okay, Mr. Foreman.
Yeah, I like Don's two items that he mentioned, the appendices to the documents for preliminary plat and also the
Okay. Okay, sidewalk. So are you clear on the sidewalk?
Clear on
The new sidewalk? Okay.
Clear on the sidewalk.
Now, these other things that Mr. Oliphant needs to check, the as is. I guess,
So we believe that this is a recommendation to the town council from you. And so you could recommend a favorable recommendation and that would not proceed until those documents were in Dave's hands.
we could. That would be one option.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe just make an item 3 for proper grading to be checked in the existing work that has been done.
Yeah, I think everything probably around the wine coop's house needs to be checked or double checked or triple checked, whatever it's gonna be. And Don's just the guy for that job. Would you be interested in the April 7th
I suppose we could.
special
do
meeting?
the April 7th meeting if that, you feel that that's a better plan.
Can we have, yes, sir.
Last thing Jack and I talked about at the last meeting was that we would have the legal documents in advance for review for preparation purposes. We have nothing.
Okay.
So it's not as simple as.
So how does
a couple of
4-7
handful of
sound?
things.
4-7 sounds great.
Okay.
Does
So
that
are
give
you
you enough
request-
time and everybody enough
Are
time?
you re-
No,
I'll make a motion.
but 4-7 sounds great.
4-7 sounds great.
Okay, so you're requesting a deferral?
I can request a referral if that's what you'd like me to do. Yes.
Deferral.
And quite honestly, Jack, if the,
April
if it's,
7th.
hey, Mr. Chairman, if
Yes, sir.
in fact, Mrs. Winecoop's sidewalk that was put in is on her property, if the Winecoops and the developer could work something out there to keep from having, I hate to see labor put into something and to be torn out and put back in. So it is, in fact, if they're able to work something out by April 7th, if there is a property encroachment, I would say that makes sense.
No, I agree. However, I'm not sure it's our position to facilitate that.
No, for sure not, for
Right.
sure.
I know you like to,
If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. All I'm saying is, if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yeah.
That's it.
all right, John. Thank you. So would anyone like to make a motion regarding referring this item to April 7th?
I'll make that motion
We got a motion by Mr. Becker.
for a special public meeting
Special
on April
public meeting,
7th.
Just a point of order.
Continued public hearing.
continue
Yeah,
public hearing.
Public hearing.
That's what I was going to ask. Are you going to close the public hearing or are you going to continue it? We would be in favor of closing the public hearing. Everyone that would be interested in this petition is in the room, has made their points clear, and we feel that it's something that administratively could be handled at April 7th.
I believe you're probably right. However, we don't have a second yet.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
so that we can come back here and anybody with an interest can comment on what's happened in 3 weeks. Continuing the public hearing is what makes sense. I would recommend you do that. I may have as much time to talk about this as Jack did tonight when I get the legal documents. Might not.
Okay.
Word version, Jack.
That gives you enough time.
Yeah, I-
We,
Again,
As long as the weather cooperates.
I have to say,
Been a long time since you did deliver.
What was that?
Been a long time since you have delivered.
That's okay. Is there?
So, the motion is for continuance of the public hearing at the April 7th. Public hearing. Continuance of the public hearing. Does anyone like to second that motion? Continuance of the public hearing on April 7th.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Becker, we have a second by Mr. Kapora. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Chuck Becker,
Yes.
John Kira,
Yes,
Jerry Wilkie.
Yes. Motion carries.
So I just wanted to inform the planning commission that you might see work on the property in accordance with the original PUD in order to get to the next phase with sanitary sewer. There's sanitary sewer that needs to be installed in the 60-foot wide strip. And that work will be beginning in accordance with the original plan. And these plans contemplate that, they account for that in the design, but that work is already permitted. And so you might see work being done out there and it's not in defiance of you.
Yeah, I think,
We're not holding you up, are we? Mr. President,
yes, sir.
you have a companion item, the primary plat amendment. It has the same
Do we just defer that also?
to public hearing. Is recommended.
Okay, regarding the request for preliminary plat amendment. Mr. Hulse.
You've everything in order regarding that petition, except for the zoning commitments that need to be done, which would be the previous petition. So since that is not satisfactory yet, we will ask for a deferral on the primary plat
To April 7th.
to the April 7th
Yeah,
meeting,
it's April 7th.
which will be following the work study.
They would like to make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr.
So
Becker. Motion by Mr. Becker,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Kapora. Roll call,
President,
please.
Mr.
Yes.
President, the legals were in order for that.
Okay.
Good.
So the record will reflect for both the PUD amendment, public hearing, and for the primary plat. They're both in order.
Did you want to conduct any, I mean, I know you probably already closed it, but you want to give the public an opportunity to speak regarding that?
Sure, have a seat.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I would just add that too, that as Jill pointed out, that the public hearing is for rezone from RM and R2 to PUD and the PUD amendment, right? So that's really what it is. The public hearing.
Talk about the
We're
primary.
talking
plat
about
right now.
item B now, John.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, is there anybody, any remonstrators for or against the item B request of the preliminary plat amendment? Anyone regarding that item? Okay, nobody's here. Mr. Hulse? Your request is to defer this
It
item
is. It still
also
stands,
to April 7th. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion by Mr. Becker, a second by Mr. Kapora. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yeah.
Chuck Becker,
Yes.
John Kapora,
Yes,
Good.
Jerry Wilkie.
Yes,
Thank you for your time.
motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Update items. Item number 1, Cedar Lake Ministries concept plan. Do we have anything new from them?
Mr. President,
Yes.
we have received an application for the PUD amendment. We received that late Friday evening. Those documents will be reviewed. This was an item that was added as an update item coming out of your March 3rd work session.
This is only for the the homes.
The petitioner is online.
Oh, we have somebody there. Mr. Peterson's online.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now, Mr. Peterson.
There. Sorry, I am here. So no, the PUD application covers both the houses and ministry uses, as well encompassing I'll call the original grounds, as well as what we've been calling the meets and bounds property. So it's all in, essentially.
All in. I like the sound of that. Okay. Do you have anything you want to add at this time, Mr. Peterson?
No, just, I'm hoping, this is just obviously an update. We wanted to get it in, so you guys could have time to look at it and everything. And obviously I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, at the work session, and hopefully everybody's dug into a little bit and can, give us some feedback, point us in a direction, that sort of thing. And we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I don't know about dug in, but my phone's been close to melting on a couple of occasions, so.
Oh, you should try my phone.
Yeah, but you're a long way away. I'm not.
Yeah, right. No, so basically what we've done is we presented to the cottagers after the meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. The next evening, we presented that draft to the cottagers, just in draft form, just to keep them up to date, and basically told them to go back and look at their the proposed setbacks for their lot, the lot coverage ratios, things like that. Gave them the narrative for the PUD. Been fielding a ton of questions. Many of them had, request for, well, could my front setback be 15 instead of 20, and various requests like that. We kept a log of them all. We incorporated the request into what the PUD was submitted with. And so they've had kind of an opportunity to provide feedback for their specific lot setbacks and lot coverage ratios. And those are incorporated into what you guys will be looking at.
All right. Oh, can't wait to see that. Anybody else have anything on this item? Any questions for Mr. Peterson?
No.
No? Okay.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Yep. Talk to you soon. See you. Bye.
Take care. All right, item number 2, Rose Garden Estates, water main extension. That language been straightened out?
We're okay with it. David, are you done looking at it?
I'm nearly done.
Okay. All right, item number 3, zoning ordinance amendment.
I'm sorry, one additional item with that.
Yes.
I'm talking with Lennar folks, they called me.
Okay, yeah, I basically told
I
you just,
got a telephone call tomorrow on my calendar.
okay.
All right, zoning ordinance amendment.
Do you want that item to remain on your agenda for an update through completion? Mr. President?
Yes, let's leave it there. Anybody think that's a bad idea?
That's fine.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
All right. Item 4, planning commission rules and regulations.
So items 3 and 4, if I could address those together for you. We've been working on the zoning ordinance amendment. Rick, Michelle, and myself will be meeting next week to go over some of those revisions. Rick had sent out an email to everyone earlier prior to the meeting, double checking to make sure the zoning ordinance we are following is the current zoning ordinance, and matching that up to the copy from David. Unfortunately, our zoning ordinance being older, there are several copies. So we are making sure we're matching up an apple to an apple and comparing the first 17 items that have been presented to you.
The ones that were presented by Mr. Eberly?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, those all seemed like no brainers, but I appreciate you triple
So
checking.
we are triple checking those before presentation to you again, as well as the Plan Commission rules and regulations. Rick is meeting with David next week to discuss some proposed changes or updates to make sure everything matches on those. So those will come up to you for another presentation again.
All right. Thank you, Jill. Item number 5, Summer Winds Commercial letter of credit.
Go ahead.
both of these items are expiring in May. Don is working
Okay.
and completing the reviews on both of those. So one of the things you had requested several meetings ago, probably last year actually, was to have a 3-month update on those items before they expire, so we don't have any falling through the cracks. So we would anticipate this on your April 17th meeting for consideration prior to those expiring, setting a date that we would begin any processes we may have to pull if they're not completed by a certain date.
All right. Thank you, Jill. Public comment. Any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, after public comment is closed, I wanted to bring just one item up.
Okay. One more time. Any public comment? Anyone? We have one person for public comment. Come to the podium, state your name and address.
Kelly Line, 9010 West 41st Avenue. The statement of the property being acquired and stuff. The agreement was we would dedicate the town our frontage for that 12 feet,
Right.
or else the deal would have never went through.
Yeah.
And you guys, you needed it for the water. And that's why we did it. We said we would dedicate that for 12 feet. We wanted to expand our garage. If that wouldn't have happened, there wouldn't have been a deal, but when they excavated to the original property. That's
Yeah.
what happened.
Okay. Are you clear on that, Vern? Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, public comments closed. Mr. Foreman, you had something?
Yeah, absolutely. Last night at the council meeting, we had a pretty in-depth conversation in and around meets and bounds parcels. As we know, during the various plan commission meetings, subject matters like the conference grounds where we have a lot of existing non-conforming homes exist in and around our whole community, right? So Don's point tonight about the wine coop's comment about the only way they, would have to do something with that sidewalk is if they demolish the house, and only then could somebody not be able to have the sidewalk or what have you, because it would then have to go through the plotting process since it would no longer be a meets and bounds. And it's also similar to a few weeks ago when we were talking about a guy came in to build a new garage, okay? And all of a sudden we all started talking about, hey man, you got to put in a sidewalk. Well, the truth of the matter is he has an existing home. He's just building a garage. So we asked Rick last night and to get with David and try to put something together for existing non-conforming businesses in our community so that it's not a year process if and when somebody wants to do an addition. And things like, hey, Mr. 55-year-old business owner, now that you want to do an addition, we're going to hit you up with all these other caveats. We believe, at least I strongly believe, that existing non-conforming with some common sense put towards it seems to make a heck of a lot of sense to keep derelict buildings and restrict people from fixing up their existing properties in our town. So we had a really good discussion last night. I hope that we'll have something to present to the Plan Commission soon. Rick was in the meeting with us last night, and Dave Austin said, yeah, he thinks something like that could be done where we do like a simple, I think he called like maybe a simple plat or something that would have some common sense approach so that we could kind of do with businesses, kind of what we're doing with homeowners and trying to come up with a geographical overlay for these cottage districts. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of that discussion that took place last night. It was a pretty good discussion. So that's all I got.
And
Well,
I agree with John.
Well, I guess then the question is, if we don't make existing non-conforming businesses conforming, then they will forever be existing non-conforming businesses.
To an extent. It's just like a guy having to build a sidewalk when he's putting in a garage, right?
Well, I guess it's kind of like that. And if we're talking about the gentleman on Morse, that of course would be a very dangerous sidewalk.
No, Jerry, it's not anything to do with Morris. It was
You're talking about businesses, and I'm not going to read into where your train of thought's going, John, but
Sure.
there's a phrase about putting lipstick on a pig. And that's where some of this could go. Because
Yeah.
it's already gone there.
Well,
So-
that could be your viewpoint, but we have to be pro-business at the same time, common sense.
And I think, some of this goes to like old neighborhoods. We can't expect those neighborhoods to comply with the current rules because they were here long time ago. And why should we force them to do stuff in an old neighborhood? We have always talked about with new development to do this, but not in the old neighborhood.
Yes, and that's what we sit at BZA and listen to. All those existing non-conforming businesses and residential. Because each one of those things is different. I'm not suggesting a longer BZA meeting, trust me.
Yeah, all we're trying to say, Jer, is that we as an old, new community, as it was discussed last night, need to have maybe a different overlay and a different viewpoint and a different perspective for existing versus a green grass site where somebody's coming in buying a 1.5 acre site off of 41 and going to build brand new. That's all.
Well, I think it's certainly begs for a much longer discussion than tonight.
Sure, everybody will be seeing something soon. So that was my point of bringing it up.
What will we be seeing soon?
Do you want to comment on
Some
it?
common sense approach recommendation from the building department.
And you.
Okay. All right, John.
Hey, Jerry, I'm not saying that we're gonna whack. It was pretty definitive last night that the granting permission to do things on existing meets and bounds parcels is essentially against the law. What we're trying to do is come up with a common sense approach to I'm gonna call it a 75 or 90-day fast track program for common sense things. And some may fit and some may not, but it's somewhat like the subject matter that I've brought up the last few meetings with the conference grounds. They're trying to use some common sense for everybody in the future to use as a roadmap. And that's all I'm saying here. We're hoping to have something from the building department and legal in the next, I don't know how many days, but and we can discuss it and debate it and just, go over it at that time.
Okay. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rushton?
The discussion they're talking about was in the context of transition of our community. We have a significant old part of our community. There are many, many, many platted lots that are undersized and inappropriate for modernization and modern planning. But having plans still is important. Having rules is still important. They just don't have to be the same rules. And the question was handled last night in the context of looking for a solution for an existing structure in an old part of this town that sought to improve it or sought for improvements to be considered so that that building, that property, that business activity that is going on there could continue to go on there under basic controls. Old Cedar Lake, new Cedar Lake. It's kind of the context that we talked about it. Nobody had a discussion about giving away, waiving regulations or police power authority or zoning controls that affected the adjacent properties, violated the comprehensive plan, violated responsible growth and development requirements. None of that was what was talked about. It was in the context of finding a solution for that type of event or property or land use. And it was in that generic context. It will be very much like will be studied when we go forward soon with the comprehensive plan component for Route 41 commercial corridor. There's going to be discussion about how to handle and how to present, and how to deal with and how to establish appropriate regulatory development standards for that highway. Because it's needed. The existing is one thing, where it's going is another. And eventually, we're gonna have to catch up our standards with those needs. Nothing more, nothing less.
I guess the part, John, that kind of threw me, you mentioned these meets and bounds pieces of property and fast track.
Yeah, we're just saying,
Meets and bounds is just not acceptable to be.
no, we have to have a plat, Jerry. We
Yeah.
absolutely would have to have a plat.
Okay,
That's it.
All right.
But it
Okay.
can be a plat in a old Cedar Lake package of criteria. We don't necessarily need full-blown engineering on everything from storm drainage to raindrops. We don't necessarily need some of the modern improvements for a piece of property that's been in existence for 60 or 80 years in a location where all the conditions are known, where waivers may be about a methodology of clearance. That's all we're saying, really. There are ways to handle solutions to not seeing or not constructively causing the demise of businesses and the diminution of property values. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to preserve.
well, the knowns of certain properties are easy. The unknowns are in that speculative range.
There's still engineering review required. There
Okay.
would still be a look-see added. You can't throw that stuff out. There'd be a surveyor who would have a boundary and certify there's a correct and closed boundary line. There'd be checked off that no adverse impacts will occur from basic engineering assessment.
And this all will be handled, or hypothetically, this would all be handled where? In here?
Exclusive jurisdiction over flats are vested in the plan commission.
So hypothetical fast track situation would end up here.
Yeah, this it has to go through plan commission.
All right,
But you'll probably get some direction on what the council feels.
Yeah, and Jerry, I didn't, maybe I used the word fast track, but I was thinking more simple plat versus fast track.
yeah, I understand what you're getting at. I just, there's so many variables spinning around in my head that certainly engineering review
It would have to be case by case.
would have, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Which is really no
Yeah.
difference
No.
than what the BZA is doing now.
Except it's a plat. It's a lot of record. And it has a path of approval, path of process. It's understandable. It's
Okay.
a solution. It's a method to a solution.
All right. Okay, does anybody have anything else? Mr. Becker, you good? Mr. Carnahan?
Good.
Mr. Foreman? Mr. Sharp? All good? All right. I will call this meeting adjourned.